Today we are talking about King Arthur and the Secret Broken Relic. Sounds like a Harry Potter book title, and it kinda isn't. But what we talk about is various King Arthur mechanics, how certain items interact with him, and how his abilities in general work. To be honest, I'm expecting this to be quite a long-winded topic because he's got so many different things going for him, so it's very likely that this will be a part 1 and a part 2 will be released shortly before King Arthur is actually released. So we'll see if we can fit it all in one or we need more than that, but let's get started. There's no particular order with the things that I'm going through here, just whatever I tested at which point. And also, when I refer to his defensive stance, then I'm talking about the standard stance, the blue stance, and when I mention his offensive stance, then I mean the combo stance or the yellow stance. May happen at some point, I just think it feels more natural as Tyr has those stances as well, and as his kids kind of feels like it has these more defensive parts and more aggressive parts. Likewise, if I refer to the combo meter as an energy meter, that's also the same thing. A quick bit of information beforehand. If you're not aware yet, King Arthur's basic attacks do not work like other characters. He always has the same attack speed. Every basic attack he does has roughly 0.4 seconds pre-fire and 0.9 seconds post-fire, so a total of 1.3. This means that no matter how much attack speed you build, that won't change. Instead, the speed at which he gains combo meter changes. And also, his basic attacks have kind of a forward lunge built into it that is sometimes used but not always used. This means that various interactions for the basics, not only in this regard, are different. Some items also work differently or don't work at all. He is still affected by a basic attack movement penalty though, and there are intricacies to that too. Furthermore, his basic attacks are cleaves. And as such, let us start with HYDRA'S Lament. HYDRA'S Lament works on his basic attacks, as you can see here. It does, however, not work on the cleaved targets, so it only hits the primary target, and the cleaved targets, which already take less damage, will not take additional damage through HYDRA'S Lament, which in my opinion is a very good thing. With his attack chain, it's still somewhat questionable if it's a good item for him overall, but at least we know that it works on the primary target. Another item that gives you additional damage in a different way is the Crusher. And the Crusher actually works very well for King Arthur. Every single one of his abilities in every single stance will proc the Crusher. So if damage is what you're looking for, this is an excellent choice to bump that up quite a bit, because you will use it many more times than with really any other god in the game. Hastened Katana, on the other hand, doesn't work. I'm not sure if it would be a useful item on him anyways, but as it doesn't work in the first place, it doesn't matter. The reason being that you have your lunge forward anyways to stick to targets, so realistically in most situations they should not be able to get away, and Hastened Katana really shouldn't change too much about that. But going back to the interactions of damage amplifying items once again, we have HEARTSEEKER too. And HEARTSEEKER, unfortunately, doesn't even stack with King Arthur. To be honest, it's questionable if it would ever be worth more than the Crusher overall on him anyways, considering how many abilities he has and how few basic attacks he will use in comparison to his abilities. But it's at least nice to know that there's really no point in using it, as the passive doesn't even stack at all. Another item that also doesn't work, which in my opinion would be much scarier than Hastened Katana on him if it worked, is FROSTBOUND Hammer. In combination with his lunge, the slow would be absolutely devastating, and I don't think you would be able to get away from him at all unless you can save yourself under your tower. So the fact that this is not working on him is a very good decision by HYDRA'S. Another item that again does not work is Equival. The question is why you would want to build Equival in the first place, but apparently those self-stacking items don't really work on him, as the same is true for ATALANTA'S bow as well. BERSERKER'S shield, however, does work. This is kind of interesting, as if you change some basics between his abilities, this could be somewhat useful, but to be honest, in most situations I probably still prefer Gladiator's shield. Furthermore, it seems like BERSERKER'S shield will only proc for one target and not multiple, so that takes away a little bit from it as well. Once again, we have the weird situation where for some reason Golden Blade works on cleaves. That is also the case for King Arthur. The interesting thing is that on him, Golden Blade works a little bit differently by design, making it a little bit weaker. Normally, if you have a cleave guard, which usually doesn't have a cleave on every single basic, the cleaves will proc on everyone with the equal amount of damage because the cleave attack itself hits everyone equally, so Golden Blade does the same thing. But with King Arthur, the primary attack deals higher damage and the cleave attack deals lower damage. That means the cleaved targets, so the secondary targets, the minions on the side basically, that are not the ones that are hit first, will take the Golden Blade damage from the main target. So if you have 100 damage, then they would still take 75. However, the main target, the one that you hit first, gets the cleaved damage from the lower damage values of the secondary targets, and not combined, just one of them. So the Golden Blade extra damage on the main target is significantly lower and makes it hardly worth it if you're looking for more damage on your primary target. To be honest, by the time King Arthur has enough gold for Golden Blade, he doesn't really need it anymore in my opinion anyways. He gets a lot of ways to clear relatively early into the game, and I don't think he will have any issues, but I still thought it was nice to at least have looked into it. Interestingly enough, despite not functioning like self-stacking basic attack items, Executioner doesn't work either. And neither does King Sais. So if you are thinking of doing some weird basic attack strat with King Arthur, it's probably not going to work, as the items that you would want to use for that aren't going to work either. On the other hand, the items that will work are all crit items. I'm not quite sure why these effects apply differently. I guess it must be because crits are just factored in a different way, but technically you can get every single crit effect, be it just a normal crit with Rage, be it the slow from Poison Star, be it the speed up from Wind Demon or the Malice effect, as well as the extra damage from Deathbringer. Is it ever really worth it? Probably not. Maybe it's some crazy HYDRA'S build, but I doubt it. But again, nice to know. Mage's Blessing also works, and this may be a more interesting one for him. This can definitely help with his early clear, which at the very early stages is not the greatest in my opinion. So to get to the point where you're really effective, this can be a good choice. And now for a really cool item interaction in my opinion. Again, we talked about Hastened Katana and how that doesn't work, and you can kind of see that here. But there is something like Hastened Katana that does work, and that is Sprint or Heavenly Wings. Now, the first stage will just increase your movement speed like normally, which is still nice for you and your team, but that's not what I want to get to here. The second version, the upgraded version, gives you immunity to the basic attack movement speed penalty through haste. And this haste, different from the Hastened Katana one, applies normally to King Arthur. And that means that he effectively gets extra dashes. So when a character would normally walk forward, they wouldn't be sped up through their basic attacks, they would just be slowed down. With Heavenly Agility, they would just move at the same speed as if they would have no penalty whatsoever, because they don't. But with King Arthur, he has leaps or dashes forward in his basic attacks, meaning the movement speed penalty is kind of there to compensate for that a little bit, to not make him too fast. If you, however, use Heavenly Wings, that is completely negated, and you will move as fast as possible the entire time. You will run fast, but then you will have dashes forward in between, which effectively makes you even faster in the end because there's no countering mechanic that slows you down. So aside of having a massive amount of dashes in your kit already, you can also use that as an additional tool for higher mobility to chase or to escape. And if that isn't a cool interaction, then I don't know what is. I think this item will actually be a very strong choice on him, especially since it's such a good item overall as well for many team comps, as long as you can fit it in somehow. Another interaction that works as intended, but is always nice to check, is Power Pod. If you get a Power Pod, he will have the normal extra effects on his abilities, which again is very strong for him as he has so many abilities. So I would probably always get a Potion of Physical Might over Elixir of Power just to get that extra effect. Last but not least, I wanted to show you what attack speed it does for King Arthur here. Here you can see just how much energy or combo gain you can have when you have full attack speed. And from my impression, it's not really worth it. At the moment, he gains combo meter so quickly that it feels like you almost always get your ult in one way or another. And I think dealing more damage on the way to get there is the more important part. Like, I wouldn't be opposed to an item like the Crusher, for example, which gives you a little bit of attack speed for some quicker combo meter, but overall, that shouldn't be the main focus. It should just be an additional benefit of that particular item. And as such, I don't see any point investing heavily into a quicker combo meter when in the end your abilities will deal less damage through that anyway, so you don't even get any big benefit from it either way, unless you're just trying to spam the ult. But then again, the ult could deal a lot more damage in other ways. So I don't really think that the attack speed kind of variants are worth it so far. It just doesn't change that much. Now, I actually still have a ton more information on different mechanics, on different item interactions, on abilities, and all that kind of stuff, and I realized that this is getting way too long for this video to finish it today. So I'm gonna do that in another video, which I think will be closer to the release, because then you guys can actually try those out in game, which makes more sense than talking about all those mechanics here when you can't even really relate to the abilities yet, I suppose. As such, we'll do that in the future, and this video will just be a first point of reference for what King Arthur can do, and I will talk about him a lot more. And with that, thank you guys for watching. I hope this was interesting and insightful. If you're new to the channel, feel free to smash that subscribe button. And also a quick shout out to my current members, the people that clicked that join button. And that is Kenny Olsen, Arawas, The Edgy Potatoes Edgy, Richard Thompson, Jado85, and Cerebus. See you for the next one tomorrow. DukeSloth out.